Guru, a new tax law in 2018 means that millions of people will have questions about their taxes. The problem is there won't be enough people at the IRS to answer, and the assumption is that many of the people who work at the IRS, because of this government shutdown, may not be considered essential employees and may not even be called into work Monday. But the Guru, do you think that lawmakers will boost the IRS's funding, which has been cut 20% since 2010?
You're right, King, that the funding for the IRS has been going down. And now, of course, with the shutdown in play, the IRS could also be impacted. So let's take what you're bringing to light here. Questions primarily are going to be answered by tax preparers. So I don't think the public at large, per se, is going to be calling the IRS en masse right now. However, you do have tax preparers that do need support and need clarification for the IRS. And unfortunately, there's some aspects of the new tax law that we're simply going to have to wait for clarification. Now, the IRS has always had a challenge related to a limitation of resources. Because remember, in our tax system, it's an honor system. We file on an honor system. The IRS is not preparing tax returns for us. We file based upon what we believe is right. We send it in, and then, of course, the IRS will spot check that in the form of audits to catch any cheaters that may be out there. And you're always going to have cheaters, so the IRS always needs to be spot checking in the form of audits to ensure that there is compliance and everyone paying their taxes. So with what's happened now with the lowering of tax rates, it gives people less incentive, to be honest with you, to cheat on their taxes. When you're raising taxes, the benefit of cheating on taxes is increased because it's more dollars in your pocket net for not paying a high rate of tax. So people look at that and say, hey, maybe it's worth it to commit tax fraud. And I'll tell you straight up, it never is, but that's what is in the minds of certain people. So the IRS needs to use their resources quite wisely. And let me just very briefly go over what the process is and how they try to use the resources they have to the greatest extent possible. So if you take the case for a random audit, so someone is selected for audit, the result of that audit, whatever it might be, goes into a data bank in which the IRS begins to look for trends, particularly in people who are in certain industries. And certain industries have a tendency to have more, shall we say, people not paying the appropriate amount of tax. So based upon that, they say, look, we have to audit where the money is. If we're not getting compliance at the levels we believe they should be in certain industries, then we're going to spend more time auditing those industries and less time auditing people in another area where we believe we do have a high rate of compliance. So this is going to continue to be a challenge for the IRS to allocate resources to be able to maximize their efforts in finding tax revenues for the government.